Olá, voltamos com o Foti e a segunda parte da entrevista sobre tecnologias e tendências de processamento de áudio. E Frank, você certamente conhece muitos radiodifusores e muitas rádios pelo mundo. Como você definiria o perfil típico de processamento de áudio nos mercados que são mais competitivos? Há também essa disputa pelo loudness. Quais são os equívocos ou os erros de estratégia mais comuns no processamento de áudio que você pôde observar?
I've been very lucky that I've visited many broadcast stations throughout the world. And I've been to what I would say the markets where competitive processing, it's almost like a race car, running as fast as possible. And I would say, in the United States, New York City, in Europe, London, Paris, Rome, these are markets where they, to answer the question, no matter what they say about quality, loudness is king. But the stations that seem to perform the best are the ones that are able to achieve what we're talking about in the other question, where they could appear competitively loud, yet retain a high level of quality. And modestly speaking, in those markets, generally the audio processor of choice has been ours. I still believe that in the top 100 markets in the United States, Omnia is on the air on like 70% of those radio stations, So there's a reason that happens, and it all goes back to what I talked about before. You're able to create a competitively loud, yet maintain a high degree of quality. And the stations that can do that, and it doesn't matter if it's a market that wants to be loud or not, it is possible. It's very, very possible.
E agora, do ponto de vista de melhores práticas, o que você pode destacar?
Well, first of all, I think what's most important before adjusting any audio processing is it needs to be established at the radio station who is going to have the final say about how the processing is going to sound. In most cases, it's usually the program director, along with, if he's not doing the adjustment of the processing, it's, somebody in the engineering staff. And then make sure that whoever is adjusting the audio processing understands the product well enough to be able to make adjustments. I think, independently of when people have said, "Hey, Frank, can you help me with the sound of my station?" And I've said yes, and I'll say, I want to sound really good. And you go in and we make adjustments. 9 times out of 10, they come back and say, "Wow, that sounds fabulous. Can you make it a little louder?" So I'm not saying, and I'm not trying to promote loudness, but having been around some of the best in the business that are programmers all over the world, I know that there's a subliminal comfort when you select, when you're scanning across, going across the radio dial, and one radio station, the sound of it jumps out more so than another. So that's the competitive factor. We have to, I don't say that's number one, but it's probably at the top of your thinking. The other part is to then determine, based on the genre of music or the format, to set the signal processing up to complement that. Playing popular hit music is processing is set one way as compared to, like light rock or easy listening or jazz or Hispanic music. I know that with a lot of Hispanic music, there's, we've worked with a number of Hispanic broadcasters in setting their processing, and it's altogether different than the mainstream formats are here in the United States. But probably the most important thing is be careful that two things: that you're not generating audio distortion through to the processing, and two, be very conscientious that for women listeners, if you exaggerate high frequencies or the treble frequencies too much, that some women listeners may not like that, and they may subliminally not want to listen to that radio station.
A propósito dos formatos de programação, Quais seriam as diferenças nos requisitos de processamento para uma rádio musical e uma rádio falada, tipo talk ou all news? Quais são os pontos de atenção que nós devemos observar em cada um desses casos?
Well, with talk, by example, as I'm speaking here on, answering this question, there's obviously there's a lot of pauses in my voice. And a lot of times in news and talk formats or sports, there's a lot of pauses. So being able to set up the audio processing, and you can always start with one of the talk presets that's made for news talk, where we set it up so that the gating is operating in a way so that we're not bringing up background noise or unexpected signals that could cause weird, discolorations to the signal. That's altogether different than music, because there we're looking for a particular signature. We're looking for a type of equalization, if you will, to have, like if it's a hip hop, like urban rap sound, we want a lot of bass to be coming through and have a little bit of sparkle on the high frequencies. Well, that type of presentation for news talk isn't going to be appealing, because you're going to hear a lot of, first of all, unless all the voices have a lot of very low frequencies, that isn't going to be enhanced, and exaggerate or amplifying the higher frequencies in a news talk format really is only going to bring up a lot of noise and things of that nature. So probably the most important thing is understanding how to make use of the gate aspects in the signal processor, because we have multi-band processing and each band has its own gate, so that you can truly customize and tailor the sonic presentation for news talk.
E as transmissões da programação da rádio em simulcast pela internet, o que muda em termos de tecnologia e práticas de processamento de áudio em relação à transmissão tradicional pelo ar?
Well, first of all, do not use an audio processor that's designed for over the air and then use that same device for streaming. Couple of reasons. In FM and in AM, we add by design a pre-emphasis boost, which is a raising of the high frequencies. And this is designed to overcome the way the receiver operates, so that the overall result is, in essence, a flat signal. Secondly, and more importantly, the peak limiting in broadcast audio processors utilizes hard limiting or clipping. And even though we control and manage the clipping harmonics, when that type of peak limiting system is used in a stream application, the audio codec generally doesn't like that. You can add coding artifacts and other sonic annoyances if clipping is used with a stream encoder. This is why we provide specialized outputs and specialized products that are designed for streaming. And in those products, the final limiting isn't clipping, it's a well-designed look-ahead limiting system, so that we're not generating any harmonics that will exaggerate coding artifacts. And another thing to mention with regard to streaming is that when you set your operating level into the encoder, I realize that we're able to provide precision peak control, and theoretically you could run that output basically right up to full scale. We don't recommend that. We recommend operating maybe 2 dB, maybe 3 dB below full scale. The reason being is that not all streaming decoders, or even in radios that are decoding, operate the same. And some of them will have overshoots in the decoder. So if you have an overshoot in the decoder and you're operating at full scale, well, that overshoot is then going to clip in the decoder and cause distortion. So operating in the stream situation, by having a little bit of headroom, 2 to 3 dB, will ensure that the decoder cannot generate any distortion for the listener.
Obrigado por essa recomendação sobre a margem de headroom no streaming. Para mim é uma novidade. e bastante interessante, assim como as demais que você compartilhou conosco. Fechando agora a nossa conversa, gostaria de fazer uma última pergunta. Quais são as tendências e o que podemos esperar para as novas gerações de processadores de áudio?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, we, myself particularly, are continuing to develop new and improved algorithms to further enhance sound. By example, our latest software release for Omnia 11, we're able to create what appears to sound almost like another dB in loudness, yet there's no perceived annoyance to the listener. So on the algorithm side, we continue to push ourselves and discover new methods to benefit the broadcaster. On the operations side, the world is moving towards software as a service, where there'll be less hardware utilized in the broadcast facility, and being able to have the audio processor operating as a service or in the cloud or in some farm somewhere, some data farm is the future. And we're actually doing that now. We've begun to have a few of our Omnia products that exist as a software product, and there are more to come. And, yet at the same time, we also know that there are going to be broadcasters who will remain comfortable in having a piece of hardware where they say, Frank, I want to have a box that I put in a rack and I hook up cables to it and it gives me processing. And in our organization, we will support both of those platforms, probably as long as we're going to be in business.
Thank you, Frank. Muito obrigado pela sua participação na trilha 7 Rádio do 7 Experience Academy. Foi um privilégio ter você conosco e, com certeza, uma oportunidade muito especial de aprendizado para todos nós. Muito obrigado.
Once again, thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure to be with you here today, and I want to wish all of you the best and enjoy the rest of your conference.
Obrigado, Frank. E obrigado também a você que assistiu a mais esse módulo do 7 Rádio.